Good afternoon, everybody. This is Whitney from Tripleseat. I am the Director of Hotels here at Tripleseat, and I thank you for joining the webinar today. We're going to talk a little bit about some reports that you can run for your hotel to ideally capture some data information that you're looking for. So we'll probably talk for about 20-25 minutes, and then I'll leave some time for some questions. So feel free to drop any questions you have into the questions box at the bottom of the webinar widget, and I will check those towards the end. And of course, after this call, if you have any specific questions about reports you're trying to create or run, you're welcome to reach out to me or our support team directly. So let's go ahead and get started. So I am going to log into the reports page down on the left-hand side here. So this is where all your standard Tripleseat reporting lives, and it's broken into categories. You've got event reporting, booking reporting, accounts and contacts, and then it breaks down to leads, activities, and tasks overall. Additionally, with your hotel subscription, you also get access to the advanced reporting feature, and that button lives in the upper right corner of the reports page. So if I click on advanced reporting, it's going to take us over to TARP, as we call it, which is the Tripleseat Advanced Reporting. And again, this is broken into three categories: events, bookings, and sales. So I'm just going to point out a few helpful reports here. These reports are really built to not need customization. So there is a fair amount of data within them. It's pulling, the sort of the max that it can out of the system and then presenting it in a way that works for the majority. So I will show you how to create some custom reports when we go back to the standard reporting, but these reports are really meant to just kind of one click and run. So on the event level, I'm going to start with the event overview report. When you're thinking about breaking out reporting, event versus booking, you really want to think of it in terms of kind of the overall shell or umbrella information versus the detailed per event information. And what I mean by that is that within event reporting, you can get specific data about an actual function room that's being used, or how many, what the guest guarantee is, what the expected guest count is, what the start and end time are. Those are all details that tie to a specific event. When you're thinking about booking reporting, you're thinking about more of a high-level overview. So it's the total number of events, it's the total expected revenue based on all the events tallied up, but it's a summary of all of those details. So it's not going to give you the specific event space being used because the booking itself isn't using an event space. You can also get your room block information from the booking level reporting. So starting with this top one, the event overview report, this just gives you a good snapshot of what is going on at your property based on whatever time frame you define for your events. So we can see it's broken out by day here, the type of event, the start and end time, all those details that we just talked about, including the status. There's a little bit of customization that you can do under report options in terms of what statuses we're looking at, of course, defining our date set, and if you manage more than one property, then you can select to view all together or one at a time. Now, conversely, the booking overview gives you that high-level overview. So we're still seeing a snapshot of what's going on, but we're seeing it on the booking level. So we have our booking name, we have the start and end date of our booking. So that could be 1 day, it could be 4 days. We've still got our account and contact information, but you'll see that you now have some room block information included here as well. The event rental is going to be the summary of all the event rentals for each event under that booking. And same with the revenue. It's going to be the summed up total of all the event revenue. So if there's 6 events under that booking, it's going to sum up all 6 and show that. You can obviously change out the same details here as well to define it a little bit deeper. All right, so looking at the booking productivity report, this report is going to give you a view of what happened during a certain time period for a different time period. So if I go to report options, I'm able to group it by owner or market segment. And here I've got the activity start and end date and the booking start and end date. So if I want to see what happened this month for all of next year, then obviously I would just select those different date sets. So this is going to tell me, okay, what did my sales team do this month to put on the books for next year? And then it breaks it down by market segment and by owner. So here we can see the owner and per market segment for all of the activity that she had. And then we've got 2 GRC reports. We have an annual GRC, and then of course the monthly GRC gives you a quicker, more concise snapshot. You can adjust the month, the year, and then you can choose whether you want to look at blocked, agreed, forecast, or picked up, and then update accordingly. All of the reports in the advanced reporting can be exported to Excel or to a PDF and then shared with whomever you please. All right, and then dropping down to the sales reports, I just want to point out the activity overview report. So if you want to see a quick summary of what your sales team has done in terms of prospecting, follow-ups, rebook efforts, things like that, then the activity overview is going to give you that. So of course we need to set a date set where there was some activity. So I'm just going to go ahead and update that. And then on screen, it's going to pull your sales managers and give you a raw number of how many tasks they completed for each category. These categories are defined by you. So these can be set up in settings, which I will show you shortly. So whatever terms you use in terms of tracking sales activity, you can set up in Tripleseat to match however you want to report on it, and whatever activities were completed during the time set that you define will appear on this report. So if I jump back into Tripleseat, the area that you would set up those activities is under settings, preferences, and drop downs. Everything that's in this drop down section is reportable. So as you look at your Tripleseat site, you want to think in terms of, okay, what do I want to report on and where is it feeding from? Everything in this section is reportable. So if you add market segments, you'll be able to tag those on accounts and bookings and then report on them. If you add setup types, same deal, lost reasons, this is everything from, there's no budget to they canceled to, unfortunately COVID-19, which ideally we're not using as much anymore. So specifically in here, we're looking at task types. Tasks in Tripleseat can be anything from a cold call or prospecting, whatever terms you use within your property to track that activity, to detailing out a BEO. So task types in Tripleseat are kind of twofold. It's sales activity, and then it's also to-do types. And then you can organize your reporting based on what you want to report on. So this is where you would build out all of those sales activities that you want to see in that activity overview report. All right, so let's go back to the standard reporting for a moment. And then let's go back to the conversation about what we're reporting on and where it's coming from. So if I just hit the new booking button and select my property, there are several fields here for me or my sales team to fill out. pretty much everything you see on this page, and as you scroll into the guest room block, and as you scroll into the events section, is reportable. Some of these fields are standard and reportable, and some of them are what we call custom fields, which are also reportable. So scrolling back up to my booking, there's standard fields here, deposit amount, food and beverage minimum, but I've also created custom fields, stuff that my property needs specifically that can merge into my contract, but can also be reported on. So when you're thinking about creating a custom report, you want to think about what information do I want to include in this report, and does it live on the booking level or does it live on the event level? So going back to our standard reporting page, like I pointed out at the beginning, it's broken into 3 sections: events, bookings, and then everything else essentially. So if I wanted to create a report that gave me some high-level booking information, I can just click on any of these pre-canned timeframes. So for example, the booking details report, that's going to give me details about my booking, such as how many rooms did they block, what's the start and end date, what's the status, when did it go definite, who's the owner on it, how many events do they have, and it's going to give me rolled up revenue information as well. If I want that dialed in event detail information, that's going to be an event details report. What function room are they in? What time does it start? What's the setup and teardown time? What's the guest count? What's the guarantee? This is a report that your operations team wants to look at because they want to know what they need to do and when they need to do it and in what room. Whereas maybe your GM wants to see, okay, how much revenue can I forecast 6 months from now, et cetera, and so forth. So we're going to start with the booking details. So like I said, you can hit any of these pre-canned time frames. So if I just hit this next 3 months, it's going to pop it up on my screen with some pre-selected columns. And here's that information. I can export it to Excel from here and share it with whomever I like. But if you want to build a custom report, you can just hit this customize button in the upper right hand. And this is going to allow me to define exactly what I want to report on and from what time period and what status, etc. So all of these reports in terms of the type of report, whether it's an event details report, a booking details, a lead report, they all work the same way in that you're going to go tab by tab to really filter out your information. So if I wanted to run a report that was looking at what's happening, let's say in the next 6 months, I could just select that. I can also select a date range. So maybe I want to see everything from June 1st through the end of the year. I can create a date range. I can also narrow it down to when it was created. So if I want to know, okay, what was booked in the month of April of this year for June through the end of the year, I could add date created. Same with date definite or lost date. And then I can filter it down by status. If I don't click any of these, then it's going to include all statuses. But if I'm trying to project on potential revenue, then I'm probably interested in definite and tentative for sure. And maybe I even want to see prospect in the same report. If you manage more than one location, you can opt to show just one location at a time. If you leave it unchecked, it will include all locations. And the same goes with owners. The next field is custom fields. So this tab is not where you would add a custom field that you want included in the report, but it's where you would select a custom field by which to filter the report. So if I hit add custom field, it's going to give me all of the custom fields that I have built on the booking level. So if I wanted this report to be filtered down to bookings that have an attrition of 90%, then I would add that. If I also wanted to see bookings that have an attrition of 80%, I could add a second custom field. And maybe additionally, I wanted to filter it to bookings that have, I don't know, Q1 pickup of a certain number of room nights. Those filters don't make any sense to go together, But the point being that you can continue to add as many filters as you like. If you want to remove anything, then obviously you're just going to hit that red trash can. So this is going to filter down the report to only include bookings that meet these specific custom field criteria. So you may have a custom field that indicates that it's room block only or that it's catering only, and maybe you want to filter down to just show your room block only bookings. You could do that with a custom field. The next tab is where you can group and sort it. So this allows you to organize how you want to see this report, obviously grouped together. So I'm looking at about 6 months into the future. So I might want to group by month and then sort by date. You could also group by market segment. You could group by owner. So there's a lot of opportunity there in terms of how you can organize that report. All right, and then on the last tab, this is where you're going to build the meat of the report. So this is where you're going to select which columns of data you want included in this report. So I had selected the one of the pre-canned timeframes, so it has some default columns already in here. Anything that I don't want to see, I could just remove. So if I don't need to see the location, I can just hit the red trash can. I can also change the order of these columns just by dragging and dropping. And then I'm going to go ahead and select everything else that I want to include in here. So, you know, if this was a report looking at lost business, then you'd probably want to make sure you include the lost reason and the lost details, because that's going to give you some backup as to why that particular booking was lost. If I want market segment, I can add that. And you're just going to scroll down to include all of the information you need. Maybe I want to know, when did it go prospect? When did it go tentative? When did it go definite? Because those were the 3 statuses that I included in this report. I might want to know the lead source. And then, of course, over here on the left-hand side, I can continue down to each category. So if I want to include room block information here, maybe I want to see the total contracted rooms and the total forecasted and how much revenue I can expect out of each of those. If you have custom fields, this is where you can include those custom fields on the report. So where I showed you that other tab is where you filter the report by the custom field. This is where you would include the custom field as a column of data within the report. So if I want to just know what their attrition is, I would click off attrition at this point. You can include account and contact information. If you have custom fields on the contact level, you can include those. And then into the financial detail. So if you implement food and beverage minimums at your property, you might want to see how much of an F&B minimum they are expected to meet, especially if you are projecting and you project off of that information. The actual is going to be the total, the subtotal of all event charges that have been added. So depending on how your property operates, you may not have an actual 6 months out. If your convention services team or your catering manager does not detail out events until 45, 30 days prior to arrival, then you're not going to have any actuals to go off of. If you're a property that contracts online items, and so you already have some of that information loaded into the booking, then you are going to have an actual. But it is the subtotal of all event revenue. So that is the summary of all of your menu item categories. So if I include actual on my report, it's going to give me that subtotal amount. If I want to see what's making up that subtotal, I'm going to do it through the item categories. So I want to know exactly how much of that subtotal is food, how much is beverage, AV, et cetera, and so forth. And again, if I want to reorganize, I can just drag the actual to show at the bottom. And then the last is just all of your billing details. If you want to see those broken out, then certainly you can include those. Once you've got the report to a place that you feel good about, we're just going to hit update, and then it's going to run it to the screen just like it did before. But of course, now we have a lot more information. It's been grouped by month. We've got a lot of additional fields here. And because we grouped it by month, it's going to give me some monthly tallies as I go through. I can export this report to Excel and save it, or I can also save it to my Tripleseat site. So when you get a report to a point that you like it and you want to be able to run it on a regular basis, you're going to hit save and you're going to name your report. So we'll call this 6-month projections. And then at this point, you can either just save, and then this report will only be accessible when on your login, or you can share it with a user role or with specific users. So if you want all of your front end sales team to see it, you could share it with a specific user role that matches that, or you could go ahead and handpick which users you want to share it with. When you do share it with another user, they will be able to access it from their reporting page, but they won't be able to delete it. So I'm just going to go ahead and save this. And when you do save a report, it will always live on the reports page in the saved reports next to the type of report you built. So we just built a booking details report. So our saved report lives here in the booking detail saved report. And now I can just one click run that report anytime I need to, and very easily by hitting customize, just change out the dates that I want to report on. So you could follow that same logic with an event details report, and obviously just get a little bit more dialed down information in terms of what's going on with specific events. So again, you can create a really good operations report out of that event details report so that your team can get kind of an overview of what to expect, in the next 30 days or however much time they like to look forward. You can build a report for them, save it, share it with their user role or with that user, and then they can go in and run it. And that way you're not tasked with running it for them all the time. All right, so let's go back into reports. And I'm going to scroll down to the leads reporting. So in terms of lead reporting, you can do a lead details report. So if I just do the last 6 months, it's going to pop it up on the screen. So this gives me, some good information per lead, but it's a lot of information, right? So you may not necessarily want to see all of this at once, but it does give you a good overview if you're looking at, leads weekly, how many leads came in over a week's time and what do they look like, and you can group it by lead source, etc. But the other leads report that we have is the conversion report. So if you're just really, looking to track conversion, then I'm going to do the last 2 years. This is going to give me a by day conversion on leads. So, this tells me how many leads did we get, what was the source, and exactly what happened from that point forward. So not every property tracks lead conversion because, sometimes if you're working with a repeat customer, you're not necessarily going to start from a lead. You're probably going to go straight to a new booking and build it out from there, or ideally you're going to copy the booking from their previous stay and save yourself a lot of time in doing so. But where lead conversion reporting can be really helpful is when you're trying to determine if you're getting your return on investment for a certain lead source. So for example, you have a listing with the Knot, you have a listing with Wedding Wire, and you're trying to do a wedding campaign on your Instagram. You might want to make sure that all of the leads that come through those sources always start from the lead stage and get converted to bookings if and when the time comes. And that's going to give you some good feedback on, how many of those leads are being converted to bookings, and when so, are they then being converted to definite, and are they ending up with actual revenue? So again, that actual revenue doesn't occur until somebody builds out documents in Tripleseat and actually adds line items. So ideally, if you see actual revenue, that means that booking, went definite and ideally is going to go closed, and then that revenue will completely actualize. All right, and then I'm going to show you one more report, and then I'll go ahead and see if we have any questions. So the last report I want to talk about is all the way at the bottom. And this is an alternative to that sales activity report that I showed you under the advanced reporting. So you can report on tasks there in the advanced reporting. Like I said, it's going to give you that raw data number. Ben did 80 cold calls last week. But if you want to see some more detail, you could build out a custom report. So I've built this sales activity detail. And what this shows me, and again, remember you can group in various ways. So I've grouped this one by salesperson. This gives me the task type, when it was created, when it was completed, when it's due, is it associated to an account and contact, what's the description, and here's the association. So the reason that you don't see an association to an account and contact on some of these is that you can also create tasks from a booking, a lead, or an event, and then it becomes more of like a to-do. Make sure you follow up to get their final guest count, et cetera, and so forth. If you're doing a cold call on a company and it's associated with an account and contact, then that is showing you that, or sorry, an account or a contact, that's showing you that it was true sales activity. So these are a lot associated with bookings, but here you go. Here's one that was associated specifically with the contact. We called Lydia, she was out of the office, it was a cold call. And then ideally, the sales manager would then set up an additional task to remind them to follow up with her to call back again since they weren't able to reach her. So if I scroll back up to the top and hit customize, you can build this report and narrow it down to certain task types. So if you're really just trying to build a report looking at sales activity and not to-dos that you're building out on leads, bookings, events, then you would want to build this report with those specific task types that correlate with your sales activities. And you might even want to narrow it down to, the actual users that are on the sales team, just to remove anything that you don't need. You can also select what it's associated with. So if you're only interested in ones associated with contacts because you want to see exactly who they've been reaching out to and are they following through on it, then you could narrow it down here. And then of course you have the same ability with your columns and then the grouping and sorting. All right, so that's just the reporting overview that I wanted to give you today, but I'm gonna go ahead and check out the questions box and see if we have any questions. And if you want to post a question in there, please go ahead and do so. Okay, so we do have a question here, and it says, is there a way to track completed against not completed activities? So again, using the filters from the report that we just looked at, let's go back to that report real quick. So I'm just gonna go to the report that I already built and then customize. So we already have in this report when it was created and when it was completed. So if it has not been completed yet, then it would not have a completion date. These have all been completed, but that would be blank. You can also compare it to the due date. So, were they supposed to follow up with the person, 4 weeks ago and they just completed it yesterday? But if I go into customize, like I said, we can narrow it down to task type, and we can also, and there you go. That's why my all my completed data is filled in, because I actually filtered it by completion date. So I could also do it by the date it was created. So I want to see the activity from last week, maybe. And I don't know how much data is going to be in here because this is our demo site. But now I can see, okay, here is a task type that was created last week, but it's not yet completed because I have no completion date at this point. All right, let me see if there's any other questions. Okay, none in there just yet, but I'll give you all a few more minutes. And like I said, if you have a specific report that you're trying to build and you need some help with it, we are more than happy to do that for you and with you to help get you to a point where you're comfortable so you can build these out yourself. So feel free to email me directly, or you can email the support team so we can help do that. Sometimes if you have a report that you like already built out, whether you do it manually on Excel or whatever it may be, you can send that to us, and then we're usually able to match the columns. If there's data in the report that you're trying to create that doesn't currently exist in Tripleseat, then we would have a conversation about custom fields. Does it make sense to create a custom field for this? And how do we want to set up that custom field? How do you want to be able to report on it? Are you looking to just include it as data on a report? Are you looking to filter a report specifically by that information? So, we can sort of talk our way through it and figure out what makes the most sense to get you to the endpoint. All right, so it doesn't look like there's any more questions in the question box today, but I do appreciate you all taking the time out of your busy day. I know everybody seems to be extra busy right now, so hopefully that means you're gonna have a lot of data to report on in the near future. But should you need anything or we can help in any way, we are more than happy to do so. And I hope you all have a happy 4th of July and stay cool out there, especially if you're on the East Coast. So thank you all.